Hello and welcome back to Verbal Money. This is the podcast that isn't afraid to deal with the big questions, just like did Conor McGregor receive real-time karma for that time years ago where he said that Nate Diaz goes on bike rides with the elderly. Also worth pointing out, whilst we're speaking of double champions, Nick Diaz, How far could he have gotten if the UFC didn't hold him back? We'll never know.
Jeez.
One of the great shames in MMA. Originally, I had a totally different intro planned because there wasn't a lot of MMA to watch over the weekend. So I'm going to ask you guys what you did with your weekends instead. Now, Steve, I know for a fact that, like me, you watched the Royal Rumble. So I'm assuming that the majority of your Saturday night was spent laughing at how much Uncle Howdy missed that elbow drop.
It's like I don't even know how to explain that match in general, but yeah, I watched the Rumble, of course. Long old show, wasn't it?
God. Oh my God. I woke up and watched it Sunday morning. So I'd already seen that they'd broken the records for how long someone had lasted in the match. So I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be so long.
Yeah, when you mentioned double champions, then I thought you were going to say something about Roman, but
I probably could have. It's a double champions themed episode.
Yeah. I don't know how in depth do you want to go on the Rumble?
I don't know. I just wanted to get the Uncle Howdy joke in because it's the funniest thing I've seen in ages. I was laughing my ass off. I only watch WWE to get moments like that out of it. If you ask me what thing did I take away, of course the ending of the main event was like actually legitimately good, but the pro wrestling fan in me that just likes being entertained, I laughed so much at the Mountain Dew pitch black match coming up constantly every time. To have a whole match dedicated to a new Mountain Dew flavor is just phenomenal. More of that. Was there one thing that kind of summarized your weekend from something that happened at the Rumble? Because I feel like this has even less meaning than Power Slap, and we're going to get onto that as well.
Oh, so yeah, okay, there's a good link right there. Yeah. I mean, I predicted both winners. I feel like they were fairly straightforward. Yeah. The Rumble matches were fine. The Mountain Dew match was not. The women's match was short, and the main event was good with a really good ending. That's the whole show.
Yeah. Before I go on to Jamie and Jake, because I mentioned it then, we got to talk about Power Slap. Because after watching the first episode, I didn't go back for the second one. I might still, but I'm not sure. But Steve, what did it get better?
No. Well, I said this to you guys earlier. This episode was fights to get into the house, which means the first episode was pretty pointless, if we're being honest. And I should clarify, I'm watching this because I'm doing a dissertation into like concussion, CTE, and the way the media treats that stuff. I am not just a Dana White fanboy. As shown by this Howler Head shirt that I'm wearing right now, which I didn't really think about how that would look, but never mind. No, do we want to talk about our guy again?
Oh,
Slappy McJesus.
Yeah,
we have to.
So his fight. I gave you the wrong information earlier.
Yeah, you put me through the ringer this morning, Steve, with the emotions. Woke up to the message that Slappy McJesus had lost, and then he'd resurrected, and he's actually not. He didn't lose, and he's here.
Okay, so he got knocked down, or he got wobbled, and then it was like a foul on the other guy. Like the guy, it was a foul. It was a stepping foul, which basically, you're not allowed to pivot your foot or step forward when you slap.
Oh, what? So it's just got to be momentum from the hips.
Yeah, you've got to keep your feet in the same position.
For a guy who's only watching Power Slap for a fucking dissertation, you seem to know about Power Slap, my friend.
Jake,
the rules were very heavily involved this week. We had a disqualification.
They were. I mean, if you've ever seen the movie Dodgeball, then you know the rules of Power Slap. It's and they take it just as serious as that comedy movie does, where they like over reinforce you cannot step past this line. If you do, it is a big deal. So,
Jason
fair point.
Herzog will be on you if you step over the line.
They should get Keith
Is
Pearson.
this the point where you say you watched as well, Kyle?
No, I promise I didn't. I also went through the roller coaster of thinking that Slappy McJesus had been knocked out. I couldn't believe it. I almost put it on as you said that, just to double check for myself, but he lives on.
Okay. So I've got the recap, and this is the UFC's official recap, so it's obviously not very honest about the whole thing. But we had Static go through. We had Slap Jesus go through. We had Emmanuel Muniz go through. He doesn't appear to have a nickname.
Thank God.
Mitchell Sype went through.
He's like his nickname.
Huh?
What was that?
I reckon that probably is his nickname. Emmanuel Muniz. His real name is fucking like Mark or something.
Yeah. Mitchell Sype was one of the stories of this episode. He was a guy who was on the Ultimate Fighter. And he came in, knocked a dude out in the first round, and he ended up being the first pick when we picked teams at the end of the episode.
Was he on the last season of the Ultimate Fighter? The heavyweight one?
Yeah, he got to the quarterfinal.
He was the guy that fought Usman.
Yes.
Sure. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he seems like going to be like the top guy in this.
Brilliant.
He was the first pick. Is there anything else worth mentioning? Oh no, so here's the disqualification. Knockdown, ref stops it, stepping foul, and the the loser, because he got knocked out, couldn't get sanctioned by Nevada to like go into the house because like he was on medical suspension. So the guy who knocked him out and got disqualified ended up in the house anyway.
So they're not clearing people for concussions, which is good, but there's a guy with fucking one eye. He's got one goddamn eye. How is he?
Well, he didn't get cleared either. That was the whole he won and didn't get cleared, so they picked up the loser. That was the whole.
Oh Jesus.
Oh, that was right, yeah.
I thought it was one-eyed Slappy Jesus.
I don't know why I still watch. I don't know why I've now talked about it for a few minutes on this episode. When we were given specific instructions to like ruin it. And
that's true. That's true.
It's hard though when there's not really much else to review or.
Yeah, like I don't know what else can I say. This guy won. Yeah. This guy got disqualified. Like, there's not much to the show. Yeah. I will watch next week as well to see how it changes once they get into the house. But that might be it. We might get one more Power Slap review and that's it.
I think that's the only way it can succeed, though, isn't it? The reality, like TV part of it. That's what people are going to go back for. I mean,
people are tuning in to see one-eyed Slappy McJesus.
Yeah,
that's what people want to see. They want to see him fucking shit up in the house.
It's the same thing with Tough, though, isn't it?
The ratings went up.
Yeah, because people are hate watching. People watched it this week to see if it was as shit as last week.
That's genuinely the case,
and it was. I'm guessing.
Yeah. It was.
It's the same with Tough. Like, people have been kind of shitting on Tough the past couple of seasons because they've kind of gone away from showing a lot of what happens in the house, which is the entertainment value's really dropped since they've done that. So if they do that with this slap shit, then people might watch it just for that part of it.
Yeah,
but
we'll see. We'll see next week, I guess. Are you guys ready to talk about some?
You'll see, Steve. I won't see.
Fine. I'll see. Fine. Do you want some actual fights now, or?
Well, it depends. We might go to Jamie and Jake to talk about what they watched instead of watching the UFC, and we might be in for some other niche sports. I don't know.
I watched ass slap fighting. Have you ever seen that? No, I didn't really, but
I mean, I saw it in the Royal Rumble with the
so funny. Do you know what? That was on the fucking. No, I'm not even going there. I'm not even going to ask.
I didn't even.
Well,
What you said, sorry.
I was planning on watching the Royal Rumble, but I went out in the day and had a few drinks and got home and fell asleep. So I didn't watch the Royal Rumble.
On Friday night, I went to a taping of The Last Leg for Channel 4. That was fun.
Nice.
But yeah, not much else this weekend.
I actually interacted with my family and stuff, which is something I very rarely do on like a Saturday evening, Sunday morning. So that was quite nice.
Do you know what? I forgot to this was originally going to be worked into my intro, and I completely forgot to mention it, which should be the last thing we talk about before we actually talk about fights. I got a text message from my mum on Saturday night, I want to say that she was watching Michael McIntyre's TV show and that Tom Aspinall had just turned up in Chris Ramsey's bedroom, and I was like, am I reading this right? Like, something must have got. There must be an autocorrect in here somewhere. Like, and I don't know where. Like, and I just keep seeing the photos of him stood
Tom
there.
Aspinall.
Oh, my mum's a big Tom Aspinall fan.
Just see photos of him stood in someone's bedroom with all of his gear on.
It's the
It's
knee
like Johnny
brace.
Walker on Vegas Strip with his photo gear on.
It's the knee brace that does it for me. Looking like a prime Stone Cold.
When you sent that into the group, I thought you meant that he was on the wheel and that he was like, yeah, that he was like there as like a fucking like a celebrity
expert,
like yeah, that kind of thing. That he was doing it on MMA or something. So I tried to look it up and I was like, oh, this could actually be pretty entertaining. But then I clicked into images and I saw him in just his shorts and a knee brace in someone's bedroom trying to get someone in a fucking armbar or a fucking Kimura or something. Oh,
yes. This is what a weekend without UFC does. It just things just go to shit, but then it returns this week with a card that's just. I mean, we'll get onto that, I'm sure, but
yeah, a kind of card that makes you not want to watch fights
instead of this week's card.
I mean,
Sergey Spivak.
We are going to do UFC champ predictions for the rest of the year because there's not a whole lot of MMA to talk about, as you can tell by the fact we've talked about like anything but actual fighting so far.
Oh, can we please not talk about it? Can we please talk about something? This weekend is so shit. It's dire. It's fucking the best card on this weekend is a Bellator card.
Oh yeah, true. But you'd only know about that if you actually like clicked on their website and checked, because they don't promote their fights. So there's not really any other way of remembering that was happening.
I genuinely saw a tweet yesterday. Bellator, like the story is so close so far. They put the event hashtag, they put the time, they put the channel. They didn't put what fucking day it was on.
Brilliant.
Oh man.
So close. Like almost there.
That's fucking peak Bellator right there.
And it's Bellator. So I don't know if this is Friday or Saturday. They move around.
But you're just gonna have people trying to tune in like the day.
Wait, is it on Friday or Saturday? I'm actually not sure.
No, it's Saturday because it's gonna go like because UFC is like a weird late start time. So it's gonna go like straight into UFC.
Okay. The UFC time for us, it's a weird one, isn't it? It's like, do you stay up and watch it, or do you wake up and watch it? Yeah, but the main card's just like the only fight I'm actually kind of interested in watching is Tatsuro Tora. So it's like, and he's on the prelims.
He's the first fight.
Yeah, exactly. But that's gonna be at what time?
He's the first fight on that card.
Yeah.
I am in my fuck watching this card now. Fuck that.
Yeah.
What time is the fucking card starting at? The main card starting at 6.
The main card starts at 6 a.m.
We've got 7 prelims, so that's
what time is the
like 2:30.
Prelims will 3-ish, I think. I think they'll start at 3, weren't they? It's normally 3 hours.
Yeah, there's 7 there, so
Yeah,
They,
3.
they sometimes squeeze them in.
You know what those prelims can do? Those prelims can go fuck themselves.
That is
Well,
such a...
4 of the prelims are the road to UFC finals anyway, so I don't know any.
Yeah.
Watch that. Did any of you guys watch that?
No.
No, it's on Fight Pass. So if there's an impressive
I was-
performance in the finals, I might go back
I
and
was
watch it, but I don't know. We'll see. It kind of depends on like how good the actual card is to whether it's going to make me want to go back and watch it.
the run I was doing my fucking junior cert exams.
I'm so confused what that was in relation to.
I'm so fucking delayed. I said the fucking road to the road to UFC events. They were on while I was doing my junior cert, which is kind of like the fucking the GCSEs. So I used to get up at 7, watch 2 hours of UFC, go in, study, watch more UFC, do an exam, watch UFC, and go back in. The fucking best time of my life.
I thought that wait, if you watched it, then like, do you not care about the card still?
Not in the fucking slightest. Not in the slightest.
You mean you couldn't tell us more about Rinya Nakamura? Or
Oh, him, he's my guy. He's my
Toshi-
guy. Fucking.
Toshiomu Kazama? Jong Yong Lee?
Yeah, it's actually
we,
a bit of a...
we,
It's a bit of a shame
we
that
go
this
way
isn't...
back.
That this isn't going to be in Korea, because like if it was, there'd be a bit more interest in it. Like the Korean fans getting a card, and the crowd would make it a little bit more exciting. But the fact that it's in the fucking Apex again, it's like it's not even a good card to even be like, well, it's a good card. At least it's like good fights. It's just terrible.
Well, it's a weird one because obviously it was supposed to be in Korea and it was supposed to have Zombie on, but then Zombie couldn't make it, so they just put it in the US and kept all of the Korean and Japanese, and I think there's a Chinese fighter on there as well. They just kept all those guys on there. And
it's like when they tried to do that. It's like when they tried to do that UFC London card in the Apex, but at least that had good fights on it. This is full of fucking no names. And like I apologize if any of the fucking South Korean fighters from Road to UFC are on here. I don't know you. I watched your fights and I still don't know you. So I apologize if I've caused any offense, but I'm not getting up at 6 a.m. or not staying up till 6 a.m. or I'm not getting up at 3 a.m. to watch the fucking prelims. The only person who I care about on this card is probably Tyra. And even still, I have to get up at now 2 or 3 a.m. to watch him. So fuck that.
I'm up watching Bellator, so I'll watch Tyra, but I don't know how much else I'll bother putting on.
But Steve, how are you going to do that when you don't know what day it is? Who knows?
You mean
Steve's going to be up till fucking 6 a.m. on Friday waiting for Bellator to come on.
You know what I'm like to fights. Like, you know, I will like stay up late and watch a lot of fights. You guys know this by now.
It's really not healthy, man.
I'm aware. Yeah, my example was, and shout out to Invicta, they do a great show, but I stayed up until 6 a.m. watching Invicta the last week or the week before.
That's pretty alarming.
The main reason was that I was like up watching AW anyway, and it was like straight after. That's the main reason.
I think the Bellator is Saturday. I think it is Saturday, isn't it?
It is Saturday, yeah.
It is Saturday. I mean, even still, it's alarming that we are having to even talk about that, considering they're back on CBS, which is the first time CBS have had MMA in ages. Whether we think it's a good fight or not, which we definitely don't, it's Ryan Bader versus Fedor 2. Fedor's last ever fight. But, you know, like, that should be a big deal. Like, I mean, that's not even the only title fight. And
it's good that they've put Eblin as the co-main, because at least then if there is like which there probably will be like a peak viewer because of it being on CBS, at least then they're getting to see like a young champion that's at the start of his title reign. And he's pretty good, Eblin is, but I mean, at least it's not just like they're going to be seeing 2 old men throw it down. Like, at least there's a little bit of a younger champion showing what he can do as well. But I mean, it's still not the best.
I mean, literally,
That's why they were going to put Nemkov on it, right? It was meant to be Nemkov and Romero.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely would have helped. I feel like we would be seeing them doing a bit of promotion and stuff like that. Yo Romero always helps with that kind of thing. But like on the prelims alone, you've got Neiman Gracie's fighting, Lorenz Larkin, Henry Corrales, Darian Caldwell. Like, and without looking that up, I wouldn't know that. Like,
No.
I wouldn't have a clue. So, I mean, Steve, you're gonna stay up like 100%. You're not missing
100%.
this, right?
I will be watching Bellator live, 100%. Yeah. But no, there's some good prospects on the card. You mentioned guys like Larkin and Darren Caldwell, of course, Neiman Gracie, but like Steve Mallory is a really good prospect. Obviously, I should shout out Jalen Bates as well, who we had on the channel just a couple of days ago. He's fighting. Carl Albrechtson's a good prospect. Max Rushkoff, I think it's his Bellator debut. Diana Avsaragova is on the card. And then Sabah Hamasi versus Brennan Ward should just be a banger. So if you look further down, it's not a bad card. Tapology is saying it's a 3-fight main card and then prelims. So I'm not 100% sure if that's accurate or not.
Yeah, I saw that as well. It lists that on a couple different places. So I guess that is what they're doing. I don't know whether the from looking at this, the 3-fight main card is the part that is on CBS and Paramount. Yeah. So I guess it's to shorten their slot, maybe because there's other things scheduled.
They've probably only got 2 hours.
Yeah. I just don't know where to go with this. I feel like we've had this conversation about Bellator so many times. So I'm like, I do think that there was probably opportunities for them to have some bigger fights on here that would have attracted more attention. I think a lot of us were like, oh, it's going to be on CBS. That's cool. Oh, it's Ryan Bader versus Fader again. Oh, like that kind of set the tone, I feel like, for a lot of people. At least it did for me. I don't know whether you guys share that, but...
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, that's why I think it's a bit more positive that they have got Eblin as the co-main, because otherwise it would be like they're not really taking advantage of having, oh, for God's sake, they're not really taking advantage of having that CBS viewership.
Yeah, for sure.
we should have placed bets on whether it was going to be mine or James.
Hey, he's gonna get.
I just don't know what causes it. I couldn't tell you what causes it. Oh Jesus!
We should probably.
I'm gonna run out of pitches to hit if this keeps happening. This
happens at least like once an episode. Someone's camera does something comical. So for people who only listen to the audio version, every time they're just like confused. Because
annoying thing is, like, I don't know how to fix it because I don't have a clue what the issue is. Like the lead is connected. It's saying it's not connected, but it clearly is. Oh, fuck it. I just keep getting flashes of it as well. Like,
it comes back randomly.
I'll just carry on. I ain't arsed. You don't need to see that.
Sorry, right. We'll get like a fucking screenshot of your face and we'll like slap it over where you
are. That'd be so good. I'd try and convince Corley to animate it like a Punch and Judy puppet. That'd be so good.
It'll make me get up out my seat, isn't it? Give it 2 seconds and it'll be gone again.
Right. Before we do our champ predictions for who we think is going to be champion of every UFC weight division by the end of the year, one of the UFC news stories that we wanted to cover was about Bella Mia, Frank Mia's daughter. And I feel like when it comes to topics that most of us look at and go, that sounds important, but I don't really know what that means. It's when we turn to Jamie, because there will be people like myself that saw the headline that Iowa's Bella Mia lands UFC's first nil deal. And I thought, why is she representing the number 0? But here is Jamie to explain to you why that is important.
Yeah, so I did a project at uni when I was studying my sports journalism degree, and we did a project based around NIL and how it's like a big help for college sports athletes. So what it means, NIL is name, image, and likeness. So it means that the college athlete can then profit off their name, image, and likeness being used by whether it be like a sponsorship, in this case, a promotion. It's a massive thing for college athletes because, especially in college football is huge in America. Like, it's absolutely massive. And those college footballers, they're basically competing in professional sports every week and then studying a degree on the side of that. So obviously you can understand how taxing that is. And then the NIL scheme at least gives them like a way of profiting off their own like personalities and that sort of thing. So when it got integrated into college sports, it was like a massive thing. Mine was based on college footballers because obviously that is the biggest of the college sports. But then obviously college wrestling as well is huge because you see a lot of college wrestlers turn to MMA once their kind of college career is over. So it is a big deal, to be fair, especially as it's involving the UFC, the biggest promotion in the world. And it kind of shows that they're going to be doing this a lot more often, I think. But it hasn't kind of sat well with a few fighters from what I've seen, because obviously Bellamere will be getting paid now by the UFC for whenever they use her name, image, or like her personality to do a promo or anything like that. So I think a lot of fighters are kind of looking at that aspect of it and how she's going to be getting paid maybe like a certain wage in comparison to actual fighters. So I don't know whether it's sat very well with them. But yeah.
Yeah,
that's a little breakdown.
Yeah, I hadn't, again, this is why I was just like, I'll let Jamie explain this, because I hadn't even thought about like the impact that would have on fighters, and suddenly, everyone else is like, wait, I can do this as well and try and get more money. Like, this could turn out to be like a huge thing for the rest of the year. Like,
yeah,
I feel like it's been quite quiet, and I would imagine it's because a lot of people read the headline and go, I don't really know what impact that has,
Yeah. Think of someone like Bo Nickel, for example. If this had came into fruition when he was still college wrestling, he'd be like, I know he's a big star already, but he would have been a massive star by the time he got to the UFC. So it's kind of a way of them building up these college wrestlers. Because in this situation, it is going to be wrestlers, because obviously that's the only kind of college sport that is a martial art. So there's going to be a lot of college wrestlers, you'd think, that are going to be given these NIL deals, which will probably lead to the UFC building them up and kind of getting their name into the mainstream before they move over to the UFC. So at least then they come over with that kind of people knowing who they are before they've even joined. But with Bo Nickel, if it would have came in, he'd be like one of the biggest stars in America right now in terms of American fighters.
Yeah, big deal.
Yeah, it just means that, so like, say for instance, they wanted to put Bellamere into the UFC game, they'd be able to do that. Like, they're probably not gonna, but like they could do that, and then she'd profit off that. So it's like it gives them a way to earn money through like their college career as well.
They haven't even got some of the ranked fighters in the
well,
UFC
yeah, exactly.
Have they got? Yeah. They must have Bo in the game. I don't know if they do.
I don't think he is.
Not yet, actually. Not yet. They said they were going to put our fella Paul and fucking Bo into the game. They said that, when was that? September, October?
Oh, yeah.
And it still hasn't come around. Yeah. Sean Strickland's still not in the game. And I don't know why.
He must be.
Like, it's probably a good reason that he's not.
No, they only added Jamal in the week he was fighting. The same with Pereira. They only added him in the week that he was fighting for the belt. That is.
They only added Fiziev recently.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think he was their most recent update, which is mental. But
yeah, it's fucking. The game is so fucking bullshit. Like, instead of giving the players actually stuff that we want, like, I don't know, fucking doctor stoppage, like an actual important part of MMA finishes a lot of the time. No, you can fight in the backyard and you can fight in the fucking Kumite. And you want to know where Hasbullah's head? Oh no, you don't. Well, you can. It's going to cost you $5. I thought that shit was free, and I was like, oh, you know what? That'll be funny. Let me download it. £5 to wear Hasbullah's head. No,
Yeah, it's
not,
mental.
fuck EA. Fuck him.
Yeah, no, I did just check to see if Sean Strickland was actually in the game, because I was like, there's no way that he must be, but no, it doesn't look like he is. Hopefully we'll get Slappy McJesus in the game soon.
Oh, they're gonna do something, aren't they?
Don't even like joke about that, because you know he's just waiting to do a power slap collab.
Oh, they're gonna put power slap in the next UFC again. Oh no.
You bet your fucking ass they will. They're off making it right now. According to reports, that Shevchenko was seen up in Toronto, I think it was, up with EA, and DC and Anik are recording lines right as Power Slap is kicking off. So just you fucking wait. See, you're gonna start off career mode, and you have two choices. Either you can join the UFC, you can go on the Contender Series, or you can join Dana White's Power Slap League.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
That is so strange.
So this is how we're
I
starting.
know,
off this
it's
part.
bizarre, isn't it?
It's quite intriguing
but,
how
like-
it happens.
Yeah,
Like I can
really
see
is.
Steve. I can see Steve flat top, but then I see Kyle, and then I see Steve, and then I see Jamie, and then I see Steve again. It's it makes my day, honestly.
it's like
Wait,
flicking
what?
through
Wait, what?
CCTV.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Well, this is the last week because I'm going to be at home this weekend, so I can actually like remember to bring my camera back this time and the mic, so the audio can be better too.
I bought a mic, a
So
high
we're
press
gonna
mic,
go.
and I don't.
Ray Borg
I
is in the
can't-
UFC game.
I can't access the app to actually like change the settings on it. So it's just like the stock mic. And it flashes and everything like a different color, and I wish I could just make it one color.
My mic is struck. I could probably leave it here. It
Why
has
is
the
it
same effect.
change? Why change colors? It's just fucking frustrating. Doesn't
I
allow
intentionally
that.
leave my mic here so people know that I have a mic now. Because if I just left it here, it probably does the same job, but now you can see it, and I look slightly more professional. There you go.
Yeah, I will say Kyle looks very professional with a mic in the corner.
I
Yeah.
did like as much as like it's so that it's close to my face. It's also because I don't bother to tidy my room before I record, so there is just a pile of random nonsense in that corner. But there, fixed.
I live in the attic, so all you will ever see is this.
I'm glad we recorded this bit.
Yeah.
There's loads of clips to come out of this. I do kind of want Corley to put up Jamie ranting about his mic switching
But
colors.
yeah, it is very frustrating.
Do it.
I might drop him a message. I might drop him a
It's not
message.
even the fact that it's flashing; it's the fact that I can't access the app to like change the settings, the actual like, the mic settings. So it's just a stock mic. It's just oh well.
Are we talking about PFL at all?
Yeah, I suppose we can do. I hadn't I just didn't know how much.
I didn't watch, but I'm just saying.
Oh, I didn't watch
didn't
at
either.
all.
Wait, PFL was on.
Challenger series.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Me asking was PFL on should probably tell you all I know.
Yeah, I was gonna mention when we were talking about what MMA was actually on. I know that Thad Jean that I interviewed got a PFL contract. Haven't had time to watch back his performance, but I heard it was very good. And then this week is it women's featherweight?
45, yeah.
Yeah, and they've got Michelle Montague that me and you were talking about last week, Steve, about how like she's just great. They should put her on everything. Like,
I'm surprised they didn't sign her last year.
Yeah, me too. But that is coming up.
Can't remember who they did bring in the end.
No, I don't know.
It doesn't matter. We don't need to know. It doesn't matter. It's not that important.
No.
Might have
But
been Jin Rover, but sorry, yeah.
oh yeah.
It might have been actually, yeah.
We need to do champion predictions for the end of 2023. This is a little bit later into the year than we intended to do it, but there was a quiet week with not a lot to talk about UFC wise, so thought it would be a good week to do it. I know that some of you guys have done your list like on the spot, whilst Jake, I believe you wrote yours a couple of weeks ago.
I wrote mine on New Year's Eve because I knew this would be coming up. So I'm kind of out of the loop on some of the announcements and some of the fights that got made and the results of some fights. But with some of them, I think I'm actually on track to get them right, despite the fact I got the fight predictions wrong. It's funny how MMA works. But yeah.
Fair enough. I also did mine a few weeks ago, and I'm already looking at it in the end of January, being like, I don't think this is going to be correct. So
yeah, I did mine 10
sign.
minutes ago, and I'm feeling the same. So
I still haven't done mine. I'm just gonna reel them off as they come, which I feel like slightly like unfair, maybe. But there's only been 2 title fights so far, so.
Right. With that being said, I'm gonna go to Jamie last for the first pick, just to give him a little bit of time. So I'll start with men's flyweight and try and give you my pick without telling you the whole story, because I wrote a really long paragraph about how I thought Brandon Moreno was going to beat Davison Figueiredo, which came true. So I'm happy about that. And then I thought I'm doing the thing that I did last year where I voted with my heart instead of my head, because I want Brandon Moreno to be the champion forever. But I worry about the potential of him defeating Alexandre Pantoja, who is my pick to end the year as flyweight champion, because he's already beaten him. So and Pantoja is so good right now. Steve, who'd you go with?
Alexandre Pantoja. Much the same logic that you just used there, so I'm not really sure how much I can add. But yeah, that's a tricky prospect for Moreno or Figueiredo, whoever came out of that title fight. Of course, it's Moreno. Pantoja's got the win already, and I think he'll get that win again. At some point.
Did Moreno's performance against Figueiredo make you question it a little bit more? Because it did for me. I suddenly thought I didn't think he would win it that convincingly.
No, because I made the pick 10 minutes ago. But
well, way to break kayfabe there, Steve.
But no, Moreno looked great against Figueiredo, of course. And that's the best he's ever looked. He's at the peak of his career right now, of course. But yeah, I think Pantoja's a tricky fight for anyone as soon as it gets to the ground, and I think it's going to get to the ground, so I'm going Pantoja.
Jake, anything? Well, I know who Jake picked because we already had this conversation, but go on.
Yeah, so I picked Brandon Moreno to be the champion at the end of 2023. But I said Figueiredo would beat her and vacate the title and move up to bantamweight. And I said that Moreno would beat Pantoja for the belt. Now, this actually contradicts my belief that Alejandro Pantoja would beat Brandon Moreno. But as I mentioned just before we got started here, I have made some wacky ass picks in this. So I do apologize. I'm not going to go back and change them. I wrote these from an authentic place, from the heart, on New Year's Eve. Was I drugged, perhaps? Maybe I was, but this is what I've got to stick with now. So I'm going to say Brandon Moreno, apparently.
I like that. That's my same theory as well. It's like, well, I believed it at one time, so I'll go with it again. Jamie, now that you have listened to everyone's pick,
Yeah.
Who are you going with? I feel like I know who you're going with.
Yeah, I mean, a lot like you, Kyle. I would like Brandon Moreno to finish the year as champion. I just don't think he will, though. I think Pantoja will beat him. I mean, they've fought twice before. Obviously, the first time being on the Ultimate Fighter, which doesn't officially go down as a professional loss for Moreno. And then they fought one more time after that, didn't they? So they fought officially twice. So yeah, I mean, he's just too well-rounded, in my opinion, Pantoja is, to be able to... There's a lot of ways that I can see him beating Moreno. So, yeah, I would go with Pantoja. And then, other than that, you're kind of looking at who else might he fight this year, which I don't know if the time period would allow for that, for him to have 2 fights this year. But outside of Moreno, there's not really anyone that I could see being a risk to Pantoja straight away. So...
I think you're looking at Royval getting the next shot, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know that 3 of us have predicted Pantoja to beat Moreno, but considering that loss to Pantoja is when he got cut from the UFC, what a story it'll be if he beats him. But yeah. So I'm going up in weight classes and rotating from men's to women's. So strawweight would be next. For the women, I feel like this is probably the shortest prediction that I will give, and that is that I don't think anyone will beat Zhang Weili this year for the title. I think that everyone agrees that Rose Namajunas has probably got the best bet, but who knows what's going to happen with Rose? Is she going to even come back and fight for the belt this year? I don't know. And even if she did, I think Weili would beat her this time around. So Zhang Weili to retain is my strawweight pick. Steve, who'd you go with?
Yep, Zhang Weili. I'm not just copying yours, I promise. But no, when you excuse me. Yeah, Rose is obviously the number 2, but Zhang's just shown so much improvement since they fought, even since they fought the second time. I feel like Zhang just completely, and we expected this, but she just completely dominated Carla. I think it's pretty hard to look past her right now. Obviously, apart from Rose, you've got people like Lemos, you've got Rodriguez, you've got Zhao Nanyan. Andrade could also get a shot at either way class. And Andrade versus Zhang is a fight I would like to see again, because it didn't really get going last time. But I would say Zhang Weili.
Yeah. I mean, I would echo that for the exact reasons that both of you have brought up. I just don't see them being anyone to even touch her. I think Andrade's probably got the best chance, depending on whether she carries on fighting at flyweight. Obviously, that's unknown because she's been kind of mixing between the two, which I don't think's great for her, to be honest. I think she needs to kind of pick which weight class she wants to settle at. Obviously, it's been working for her, but when it comes to a title shot, she's kind of between 2 weight classes. She's not going to be able to cement herself as a challenger in both weight classes. So you've got to pick one. That's probably the fight I'd be most excited to see for Zhang Weili. And I do think Weili would probably beat her again. But yeah, that is my pick, Zhang Weili to retain.
Jake, did you have someone different, or do you agree with everything we just said?
Yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh.
I have Zhang. I'm going to say that she defends against Amanda Lemos, and I think the UFC might go back to China at some point later in the year, and I think she's going to fight Xiaonan there. I think that'll be sell pretty well. So, yeah.
Because I came to you last, and there was like nothing to add really, and we all agree that Zhang Weili is the best in that weight division. I'll come to you first for the men's bantamweights.
Men's bantamweight. Okay, are you ready for some weirdness in this? Right, predicting Sean O'Malley to become bantamweight champion by the end of the year. I'm gonna say that Aljamain Sterling beats Henry Cejudo, but then vacates the title, so we can let Merab fight for it. Merab doesn't fight for it because he loses to Piotr Yan. Then he beats Cheeto, who presumably beat Sandhagen earlier in the year, in the vacant belt during International Fight Week. And then O'Malley defends either Yan or Merab. I have down here Merab, but I didn't realize Merab was going to be fighting Yan, so one or the other. Either way, I'm picking Sean O'Malley to become champion for some reason.
I mean, the fights that you've said all sound like fun fights. Like I kind of hope to see all of those, so I'm kind of into it. Is Jamie still here?
I am still here. I'm just changing my camera battery because I knew it would. It just went out, so just switch it.
All right. I'll go to Steve, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll come back to you hopefully once everything's all good.
Yeah. Okay.
This was a tricky one for me purely because Aljo is pretty inconsistent. Like we don't really know when he's gonna fight, when this is gonna happen. So I'm gonna play it safe. I think there's only gonna be one bantamweight title fight this year, and I do not think the new champion will vacate. I think the champion at the end of the year is gonna be Triple C, or I guess Quadruple C, Henry Cejudo.
C4, I believe he wants to be called.
Oh yeah.
C4 is better than Quadruple C for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one with bantamweight because it's such a stacked division, and obviously Aljo at the top he's had his injury problems. He's been inconsistent and getting in the cage lately. But yeah, I think Cejudo, grappling wise and on the feet, he's super technical on the feet as well. People don't think about. I think he will beat Aljamain and then not defend it, and then we might get Cejudo versus Sean O'Malley early next year.
Yeah, I followed Steve's thinking there to a T. I obviously at the time when I wrote mine, it very much seemed like we were going to get Cejudo versus Sterling very soon. This was before Sterling said about his injuries and stuff. So I thought that they would fight. Cejudo wins the belt, and then I kind of worried that Cejudo would try and go straight up to featherweight, but I think the opportunity to do Cejudo versus O'Malley is too big, considering, like, assuming they both win, or if O'Malley fights before then. I don't know if he will. I think he might wait around for the winner of Sterling and Cejudo. So yeah, I've gone with Henry Cejudo as well. Jamie, do you have a different pick?
I do have a different pick, yeah. So obviously with the fight looking like it's going to be Cejudo versus Sterling, I think Sterling might beat Cejudo and then vacate and move up, which would leave the path clear for Merab. And I think Merab will probably finish the year as champion. If that all happens in that timeline, that's the only issue for me. I think Merab will beat Peter Yan, and then I think he probably has a vacant title fight against someone like Cheeto, maybe. And I see him probably winning that one as well. So if it all fits in the timeline, I'm taking Merab to finish the year as champion.
Okay. I'll go back to you for women's flyweight, which is I feel like usually is a very open and shut prediction, but I have no idea where you guys are going to go with this one.
So I'm going to go with Valentina to retain. I think the only woman I can see that might possibly cause her a bit of an issue is Tatiana Suarez, but I don't think she's going to be fighting for the title by the end of this year. That's where the issue comes in there being anyone to kind of knock Valentina off the chair as such. So I would say Valentina to retain. I think is she fighting Grasso next? It is, isn't it? I think she beats Alexa Grasso. I'm not 100% sure if Tatiana Suarez's next fight has been confirmed, but I don't see her fighting a top 10 in her comeback fight.
No, she's fighting Montana De La Rosa, who is not ranked.
That's it. That's the one, yeah. That's where she's the only one I could see causing Valentina a bit of an issue, and she definitely won't be fighting for the title by the end of this year. So I think Valentina retains.
Jake, do you share the opinion that Valentina will once again end the year as champion?
If any of you have picked anything other than Valentina Shevchenko, I'll be very surprised. Yeah, I'm picking Valentina. I predicted initially that she would fight Manon Fiorot and Santos, but now we know she's fighting Grasso, so I'll say she'll fight Fiorot and Grasso this year and kind of regain some of the goodwill she lost with fans during the Santos fight, because while she did nothing wrong, a lot of people felt like she got a decision that she didn't win. I actually gave it to Shevchenko, but very close fight. But I'm picking Shevchenko. I don't think Suarez is going to be back. in a title challenging capacity this year, maybe next year. And I could see Suarez beating her, but for this year, I'm going to say Shevchenko.
Now, when Jake said that he would be surprised if any of us didn't pick Valentina Shevchenko, Steve had a very similar look on his face to myself. So, Steve, did you pick Valentina Shevchenko to lose the belt?
All I can say is I hope you're ready to be surprised, Jake. Okay.
Steve, don't do it, man. Don't do it.
I'm not picking Alexa Grasso, don't worry.
Oh, thank fuck.
And I'm not sure how much I really believe this myself. I just think it's a cool scenario that I think there's a chance of it happening.
I think I know who you're going to say here, Steve. By the way, sorry.
Yeah. All right. And obviously you mentioned Tatiana. Likewise, I don't think she's going to be at the top of the division, but I think her grappling is something that would cause Valentina problems, as we saw with Tyler Santos's grappling. Tyler Santos has a fight coming up on the 18th of February. She's fighting Erin Blanchfield.
I knew you were going to say her.
I think Erin Blanchfield is going to win that fight. I think her grappling is going to cause all kinds of problems for Valentina Shevchenko. And my pick is Erin Blanchfield.
That's a big call.
I think she's definitely a future champion, but I don't know whether it's this year.
I'm not sure if that would make her the youngest champion or not. I don't know if any of you guys know that. She's 23.
My pick for this division is the pick that I think has aged the most. What am I trying to say? Has aged the worst out of all of my predictions since I wrote it down in December. If you asked me which one is 100% wrong, I would say this one. I went for a pick that none of you have said. I went for Tyler Santos to end the year as champion. Now, I should preface this by saying, when I made this prediction, I thought she would get a rematch with Valentina this year because I thought Valentina would fight Manon Fiorot. I didn't see Alexa Grasso getting that fight, so I thought she'll fight Manon, and then she'll probably fight Tyler in a rematch. This was also before Tyler was booked against Erin Blanchfield, who I also believe is a future title challenger and world champion. So now I don't even know whether Tyler Santos is going to get another title fight in her UFC career, let alone go on to dethrone Valentina Shevchenko. But last year, I made the mistake of picking too many champions to defend their titles throughout the whole year. And Valentina was one of the ones that I thought, this reign has gone on for an awful long time. And title reigns like this just do not last. Like, it gets to a point where someone comes along who can beat her. And I feel like we got really close to that with Tyler Santos. So I thought, I can only go off what I've seen, and that is that she was successful against Valentina in a way that not many others have been. So that was my theory behind it. But like I said, it is.
Look at this fucker. He's here living in 2022. Tyler Santos is going to win the fucking, what is this, June 20 or 2022? Yeah, but do you remember when Tyler Santos was a big deal? And it was like, oh, she got robbed. She didn't or fuck. Okay, look at, yeah, all right, to be fair, it was close. And it's actually not a bad pick. But
I thought she wouldn't even. I didn't even think she would have to fight again to get a rematch. And then here she is fighting Erin Blanchfield, who's like number 11 or something.
Yeah, that's so peak on Tyler Santos. That's like, you came so close to beating the champion, and now like because you didn't, you've got to fight Erin Blanchfield, who's like one of the hottest.
Valentina doesn't want to fight her. Well, that's the reason. The UFC was ready to make that fight. Apparently, they offered the fight to Valentina, and Valentina doesn't want it.
To be fair, though, I can understand why Valentina, not because of how close it was, but like, it wasn't close enough for me to be like, oh, I want to see that again. Because there's other contenders, in my opinion, that are there. Like, as much as, Alexa Grasso probably isn't going to beat Valentina, I think she is a contender that's kind of done enough to argue for a title shot. And the same for Manon Fiorot. I thought Manon Fiorot would get the title shot, but I think she came out after her last fight saying that she wants one more, didn't she? Before she fights for the title. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Just on that point, Jamie, right? Have any of you actually watched Shevchenko versus Santos since you've seen it?
Not watched it back, no. because it wasn't
Yeah.
really that much of an interesting fight to me to watch back.
Exactly. It probably wasn't as close as we remember, honestly. This could be a kind of a Jones versus Gustafsson situation where it wasn't actually as competitive as we thought it was. It's just because we've seen a dominant champion finally face some adversity. I haven't watched it either, so I don't know. I'm just saying maybe someone went back, someone at the UFC went back and watched it and went, this actually isn't as close as we thought.
But even the fact that we're sitting here saying
rematch.
that, even the fact that we're sitting here now saying that we wouldn't really be that interested in seeing it straight away again is like a reason as to why they wouldn't have done it straight away. There wasn't really that much interest for it. I know people were a bit like pissy online that Valentina lost a decision, but it wasn't that interesting of a fight to run it straight back.
Yeah, I agree. Not that I took any of this into account when making my prediction, clearly. So men's featherweight. I will come to Steve first. Steve, try and give us this prediction without ruining your prediction for the lightweight division, if possible.
Oh, okay.
That might be difficult. So if you do, it doesn't matter. It's not like, it's not the end of the world.
I will try. I mean, I'm going for Alex Volkanovski still being the champion at the end of the year. I think whether or not I think he wins the lightweight title, I think he will try to defend the featherweight title again. Everyone's saying, oh, he's just going to move up. I feel like he is someone who likes to be active enough to try and do both. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. And then when you look at the contenders, obviously it's a stacked division. Let me just scroll down. Yair and Emmett fighting for the vacant title. I think he beats both of those pretty handily. Then you're looking at Arnold and Max. If that fight happens, you're not going to throw Max back in there, really. That's a tricky one to sell. And then looking a bit further down, obviously Topuria, Evloev, and Bryce Mitchell. They're the kind of names you would look at as maybe an outsider for getting a title shot towards the end of the year, I feel like. And I don't think there's anyone there that... I shouldn't have said Bryce Mitchell since he's coming off a loss. Let's forget that one. I think Volkanovski beats any of those as well. So I think he ends the year as champion.
Yeah, I'll jump in with mine because I did the same thought pattern that you did, in that I think that regardless of how the fight against Islam goes, I think he will still be featherweight champion. I think he'll beat Yair or Josh Emmett. And considering I picked Henry Cejudo to end the year as bantamweight champion, I think the prospect of doing him versus Volkanovski is too big for the UFC to tell him, even if he does win the lightweight title, they're not going to tell him to drop that belt so they can do that fight. And then if he loses, he can drop it and move up if he wants or whatever. Jake, do you have someone that isn't Alexander the Great?
No, I don't. I have Alexander Volkanovski. I have him to unify his title with Yair Rodriguez in the summer, potentially International Fight Week. And then I think he's going to defend against Harold Allen in the back half of the year. Again, regardless of whether or not he beats Makhachev or not, because he has stated a lot last year that there's not enough fresh contenders at featherweight, and he just wants to have two belts to keep himself busy. So whether he wins it or not, I think he's still going to be very active at featherweight, and I think it's going to be a clean sweep of featherweight this year.
Same all round.
I've got Josh, and no, I'm joking. I do have Volkanovski.
I thought you were going to pull the traits at Team Renegade card then and pull
I would love Arnold Allen to win, and I don't know if he even gets a title shot by the end of this year, to be honest. So. But yeah, I'm Alexander the Great. Yeah, no more needs to be said.
Okay, I feel like maybe a similar thing with women's bantamweight. I've picked Amanda Nunes for similar reasons to why I picked Weili Zhang. I just don't see, there's some title fights out there, but there's none that I think are threatening enough to her. However, I did pick Valentina Shevchenko to lose her belt. So I do think Shevchenko will go up, but I don't think it will happen this year because, I mean, I predicted Valentina Shevchenko to fight Tyler Santos, which is not going to happen. So I thought she would be too busy to face Nunes. I think Shevchenko is the only one with a real danger in dethroning Amanda Nunes at bantamweight. Jake, same thoughts?
Juliana Pena, no. Nunes. I have written down that she's going to beat Ketlin Vieira and Irene Aldana, but Ketlin Vieira lost to Raquel Pennington in women's MMA moment of the year. And now Pennington and Aldana are going to fight each other in a fight night main event. That's a good sign for what's going to happen in the UFC this year. So I was wrong on who I thought was going to fight for the belt, but Nunes. Yeah.
Do you guys both have Amanda Nunes as well?
See, the only question with Amanda is she going to retire? You know, there's always that question kind of looming over her. So part of me was tempted to Pennington, but I'm not going to.
Oh my God.
No, I'm not going to. But in a scenario, if Amanda retires, I could see Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena for a vacant title towards the end of the year. At which point, let's just like scrap the division, right? No disrespect to those.
Oh, stuff. Imagine living in a world where Juliana Pena is a 2-time UFC champion, or where Raquel Pennington is a UFC champion.
Wow.
I might just give up on the sport if that happens. Do you know what I mean?
No, give up on the division, man. Come on, please.
Let's look a bit further. Who's that? Josiane Nunes is linked as ranked. I didn't even realize that. He's ranked at bantamweight, despite being everyone's favorite 5'2" featherweight.
She couldn't even fucking get past Zara Farron without fucking getting clattered.
I'm just going to throw this in whilst we're talking about sacking off a whole division at once. I didn't make a prediction for women's featherweight because it's not a division. I don't know if you guys
Amanda Nunes, no title defenses. That's what I have written down. I picked Nunes, but in brackets I said no title defenses.
Amanda Nunes or no one.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like, I guess it's a prediction whether we think Nunes will still have the belt or whether they'll just vacate it. But if Nunes is still competing, they're not just going to take it off of her.
Yeah,
just
no.
It's too good of a marketing tool to get away. Yeah. She's the double champ. She's been like double champion. Actually, no, she's only been double champion again since July. She lost her bantamweight belt. But like, you know, for however many years it's been now, was it like 4.5 years, something like that? You know, she's been double champion, and you know, whenever she fights, she's labeled as the greatest of all time. So it looks too good on a poster for them to get rid of. So despite the fact she will probably never fight in that division ever again. It's kind of like those WBC franchise belts they just give to, you know, one of the guys who, you know, has been champion for a while. It's like, oh, look at you, you're great, aren't you? Have a belt you can't lose, even though you can lose it. I don't understand the WBC franchise belt.
It makes no sense. Let's I'll end this and then we'll do a third call.
I was just going to clarify that I did in fact pick Amanda Nunes despite my.
Oh yeah. Imagine after all of that conversation, Steve says he picked Josiane Nunes. Incredible. Okay, on with the predictions. The lightweight division currently held by Islam Makhachev. We've got contenders like Justin Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev, Beneil Dariush, Charles Oliveira. A lot of difficulty in predicting who will be fighting for the belt this year, and I feel like there's a lot of those guys in there that you could make arguments for. Jamie, who did you pick to end the year as lightweight champion?
I picked Islam Makhachev, obviously because he's just so ridiculously good. I would love to see Fiziev beat Gaethje in London and then turn around and fight Makhachev by the end of the year. I don't think Fiziev would beat Makhachev, but I would love to see that as a Fiziev fan. But yeah, there's just no one that I can see like causing him an issue. I think Charles might end up fighting him again this year, which is bizarre. And I think that goes exactly how the first one went. So yeah, I don't think anyone dethrones Islam.
Yeah, the one that gave me, I also went for Islam. The one that I thought about was if Beneil Dariush could beat him. I think he's probably the biggest threat. But after seeing that him and Charles Oliveira, they're trying to make that fight, I'm not too confident that he will even get the title shot. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't pick that. Did you guys pick anything other than Islam Makhachev?
No, I'll echo everything you guys just said. I don't think Benny beats Charles either. But nah, it's kind of tricky to see where the next challenger comes from apart from that fight. Do you do Gaethje in there with Islam? I don't think Gaethje beats Fiziev. So then you're looking at Fiziev, like you mentioned. It's a tricky one
I
to
would
see.
love Fiziev to fight for the title well this year.
Yeah, 100%. So would I. But yeah, it's tricky to see kind of how this division plays out. And Islam is just, like you said, so good that I don't think anyone beats him anyway.
Jake, anything else to add?
No, I have Islam to beat Volkanovski, unfortunately. And look, there's been some fights announced recently. Have kind of thrown this into disarray. But I'm going to stick with it actually because I feel like this one will actually work out. Dustin Poirier is going to fight for the belt again in his retirement fight. I think he's going to go to Dana. He's going to say, "Look, just give me a title shot," and Dana's going to be like, "Fair enough, son." And they have a fight, maybe in Abu Dhabi. Dustin's going to lose, and then he's going to retire.
Surely Dustin has to fight before he gets a title shot again, though.
I actually don't think he will, because the division's kind of booked up. But I feel like he'll like these guys like Gaethje and Poirier. They can worm themselves into title shots now.
Yeah, I don't think Gaethje will beat Fiziev. I think Fiziev beats him, and then it's hard to deny Fiziev a title fight after that because I'm currently like working on a breakdown video for that fight, and Fiziev's like strength of schedule since he's been in the UFC is ridiculous. Like fighters that they're not like the strongest of fighters, but like Jacasey being his second UFC fight, and then Moicano, then Riddell, then RDA. Like if he then goes on and beats Gaethje as well, like there's no way you can deny him. And even though the lightweight division is
maybe Poirier and Fiziev.
Yeah, maybe. But it's like the division's that strong, but it's not strong enough to like see that there's another contender that can beat Makhachev. It's a weird one. It really is.
Yeah.
Why is he so fucking good?
I agree.
Right? It takes the fun out of the division. Because like you've got these great guys, you've got Fiziev, you've got Charles Oliveira, got Beneil Dariush, you got all these great fighters, and none of them are going to beat Islam, and that pisses me off. We have Alexander, and still I don't think he wins. That's fuck this.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think Beneil Dariush probably has the best shot of it, but I don't even think he'll get there now, which is strange because I feel like he's been so close for so long. But
if Conor beats Chandler, they would love to put Conor in Islam.
What about if he beats Tony Ferguson?
Oh yeah, that's that as well. Now, yeah. They need a little bit further away.
To make us feel so dirty talking about that fight. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to Tony? He's lost 5 in a row. Stop. Just stop. Let him retire. Or let him fight fucking... I don't know. Just force him to retire or something. Pull a fucking Chuck Liddell. Put some money in his pocket and offer him a job.
I'd say let him
That's
coach.
the problem.
We haven't even we probably should have spoken this like before we got to this part about the Ultimate Fighter rumors and stuff, but I guess we'll wait until anything's like properly announced. But let Tony coach, let him do his thing and pay him money, and then he can do whatever he wants. Men's welterweight.
Just don't let him fight at the end of the season. That's my only request.
Either way, like McGregor isn't coming back at lightweight. There's no way. There is no way that guy's coming back at lightweight. So even...
Do you know what? He actually looks a bit more slim lately.
I don't know.
He looks a little bit more slim lately.
I just don't see a world in him getting down to lightweight anymore comfortably. But yeah.
I think he might try to get the lightweight and have some difficulty with it. But in that photo where he, posted the picture of his arse, he looks like he's lost a bit.
He does look like that, to be fair, Jack. He does. But that might be because there's a chunk of his ass on the side of some road in Ireland. That's what he's like. That's why he's slimmed down in weight. But yeah, I don't see him coming back at lightweight.
We could see him back in the men's welterweight division, where we're going to do our predictions for next. I'm going to come to Jamie last on this one. I'll go to Jake first for who will end the year as welterweight champion.
Okay. Now, bear in mind when this was written, all right, it didn't look like we were going to have Usman fighting for the belt in March.
Oh, no, he's going to
So,
You picked Jorge Masvidal, didn't you?
I didn't. I said that Edwards would defend his title against either Bilal or Jorge Masvidal in London. But then I said he'd lose to Usman in the summertime. Usman would retire, and Khamzat Chimaev would beat Colby Covington for the vacant belt.
Wow, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
You started it by saying, okay, I didn't know this was going to happen in March, but let me plan out the rest of the year. I mean, fair enough.
The way that he said that, I was fully prepared for him to come out and say Belal Muhammad was going to finish 2023 as the welterweight champion.
You know what? I don't mind Bilal. Bilal's all right. He gets a lot of undeserved hate.
No, his last fight was he shut up a lot of haters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what Leon called Bilal at that Q&A the other day. I think he called him a weirdo.
Brilliant.
It's so unnecessary. Bilal's a nice guy. His eye freaks me the fuck out. But other than that, he seems like a lovely fella.
This isn't the time to just slag off Bilal Muhammad, but I personally find him really annoying. But anyway.
I thought he was going to say something like he's just the fact that you started it with this isn't the time to be slagging him off. But
I thought you were going to get onto me for slagging off fighters. It was like
no, he doesn't factor into my predictions at all. So I have no reason to mention him, which is why I was like, okay.
We're talking about title predictions, Cole. Obviously, he's not.
Man, when I wrote my prediction, I thought he was fighting in March.
So... Do you know what the thing is, though? The unfortunate thing for Bilal Muhammad is that his path to the title is probably going to have someone like Shavkat or Khamzat on it. That's the unfortunate path for him. But...
Kyle doesn't care. Kyle is sitting there thinking, you know what, let him fight them both. The one night, shut the cunt up. That's what Kyle's thinking. I think he's all right. I just think his eye's a bit weird, but like that's it. That's Leon's fault at the end of the day. Let us not forget.
Yeah, I just don't care for him. But anyway, Steve, who's your pick? I'm guessing it's not Bilal Muhammad.
It's not Bilal Muhammad, unfortunately. This is maybe a bold prediction, but I am picking. I say this like I don't know. I do know. I'm picking Leon Edwards to still be the champion at the end of the year. I think what he talked about at that Q&A last week about saying that his performance back in Salt Lake City was like one of the worst performances of his career. I think with the UK crowd, I think not at altitude. I think you never know how someone's going to come back after a knockout like that. I think the stars align for Leon Edwards to retain the title in March. And then, I mean, obviously, who knows what's going to happen with Colby, with Khamzat. So I think we will get a Masvidal. Well, in saying that, Masvidal's fighting Burns. I don't think he beats Burns. So I think Leon might not even fight again this year, to be honest, after that fight. I'm I'm doubting myself now, honestly. But now I'm gonna stick with Leon. I think Leon will still be the end of the champion. Will still be the champion at the end of the year. I think he beats Usman, and then maybe he has another defense against a Bilal or a Masvidal or even Burns. Edwards could win that fight if that stays on the feet. And then next year, the real problems will come when he gets Chimaev or Shavkat.
Oh,
I'm gonna get my prediction out of the way really fast because I
That
don't.
was very rambly. I'm sorry.
It's fine. I don't want to take this opportunity to say everything about Leon Edwards before Jamie gets to speak, so he doesn't get to talk about it. I also picked Leon Edwards to retain. I really I've never been happier to get a prediction wrong than when I picked Kamaru Usman to end the previous year as champion. So there's no way I can pick against Leon this year. Even when I thought that they wouldn't even get to fight each other until the end of the year. But hey, yeah, I think Leon's gonna win. So Jamie.
yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm picking Leon. I came into their last fight completely like putting my bias aside, and I genuinely thought that Leon would beat Usman. I didn't think it would be the way that it was, obviously, because that would take like a miracle for someone to predict that. But I thought that the way that Edwards has been looking in this whole run up until that point, he was the one that was going to pose Usman the most problems. His grappling is like completely underrated. Edwards is. He like the clinch work that he does, the elbows exiting the clinch, all that sort of thing. I thought that would play the biggest role in that fight. And he's just so well rounded, but like not to a point where he's just well rounded enough to be decent. He's like elitely well rounded, and I think that's gonna once again cause Usman problems. I don't think it'll be like the first one. I think it'll be just like whether Usman tries to wrestle him or he stands up with him. I think he's just gonna. I think Edwards might finish him again. Obviously, no one knows what it's like to get knocked out for the first time in their career and then come back. And are they going to be the same fighter again? Who knows? But I see him beating Usman, and then I possibly see him fighting Hamzat before the end of the year, which I don't know how that's going to work out because Hamzat can't get a fight at the moment with Colby, wherever Colby is. Maybe Hamzat fights Burns after Burns beats Masvidal. That would be so unfortunate for Burns, but someone's got to fight Hamzat. So I think he might end up beating Usman and then fighting Hamzat by the end of the year and beating Hamzat as well.
There is something really funny to me about you talking about how great Leon Edwards is, whilst your head is like directly underneath the poster.
My head's like right on his shit.
It's like Jake trying to sell you on why living in an attic is the best way to do it, whilst he's just got the panels behind his head. It's just it just fits perfectly.
But I do agree with Steve though. Next year it's going to be pretty terrifying if he does finish this year as champion, because I mean, if he doesn't fight Hamzat this year, he's probably going to have to fight him next year. And then you've got Shavkat coming up as well, who's just like, in my opinion, he's better than Hamzat. I think if Shavkat fought Hamzat now, Shavkat would win, which is quite scary to think about.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, you mentioned those guys. No one really knows what's happening with Chimaev. No one knows what's happening with Colby. Obviously, Colby, he's dealing with his lawsuit thing as well anyway. So
he's dealing with his brain damage, man. He's dealing with his brain damage.
I was listening to another podcast onto the next one, and they were saying like some states won't even like sanction Colby because he's out here talking about brain damage. Like he's not going to be able to fight. He's not going to be able to fight in New York.
He's such a weird. Like he got hit with what? 2 punches, got his tooth chipped. Fucking horrible for him, right? He's talking about brain damage and shit now. He's going to try and sue for more than what Masvidal's net worth is. Do you know what I mean? Like, Masvidal doesn't make that much money. Like, I know he got paid, like, he's on a contract where he's, like, the 3rd highest paid athlete in the UFC, or maybe the 2nd behind Adesanya. But he's only had 1 fight on that contract, and that was the Colby fight. So, what the fuck is he hoping to get out of this?
Sorry, but
I
what
mean,
is Jorge
also-
Masvidal the third highest paid? That alone is like, get me out of here right now.
Uh,
Oh. I feel
That's
like we need to
terrifying.
do like a verbal money therapy session where we all bring 3 fighters that we don't like and we just get it out of our system. And
I
then
have a reason to dislike him though. He's just, I mean, he jumped Edwards in London, and then jumped Colby in Florida, and then somehow got this massive contract that made him the third highest paid athlete in the UFC. When he's
I know I was giving out about Colby getting all that, right? And it acted like I was pro Jorge. Fuck, Jorge he's a twat. I don't know why he hasn't gone bald yet. His hairline is disgusting, is the only word that I can come up with. But
I was talking about him as a fighter,
Like-
Jake. Come on. Oh shit.
oh, let's move on before we insult anyone else in the welterweight division.
Before we're getting lawsuits thrown
That's
at
what
us.
this podcast has been. That's what
It
this
really
podcast is.
Yeah, it's very true.
We got this guy.
since 283, since you let me break that, an episode hasn't gone by without someone getting.
How do you feel about
Fine.
Lauren Murphy while we're at it?
She doesn't come into the predictions. We're not going back. Right. I'm gonna wait for Jake to come back first because I feel like this isn't over.
This isn't. He's going to speed up and he's
In
going to be like,
2024. No, it's not.
Okay.
what?
Okay. Middleweight division. I want to go back to something that Steve said a minute ago, which was that you can't predict what Khamzat Chimaev is going to do. I have predicted him to end the year as middleweight champion. Because I don't think the UFC are going to be happy with him fighting at welterweight. That's one reason, because he ruined that UFC card by missing weight and not caring at all. I think they're going to be very hesitant to book him at welterweight, and I also just don't think there's anyone for him to fight. I don't think he'll take a Gilbert Burns fight again. He already beat him. I think that just like myself, he sees no value in Bilal Muhammad. That's pretty harsh. That's a little bit too much, but you get what I mean. I don't think that fight excites him, and it doesn't excite me either. And obviously, when I made this prediction, I didn't know what was going to happen with Izzy and Pereira. I did put in my prediction that Izzy is super active all the time, so I thought that they would do that rematch straight away because Izzy would want it. So I think that leaves a spot for a middleweight title fight by the end of the year, and I think Khamzat gets that shot. Obviously, he needs to fight someone highly ranked at middleweight first, so that is the big stumbling block. I was really hoping he would get the Robert Whittaker fight after Paulo Costa fell off with that, but doesn't look like that's going to happen. So I don't know how he gets it, but I think he beats Izzy. I think he beats Pereira. So that is why I've picked Khamzat Chimaev. And also it means I don't have to try and predict who's going to win out of Izzy and Pereira, and I really don't want to have to do that. So that's nice too. Jake, who did you go with at middleweight?
I went for Israel Adesanya. This one was actually pretty straightforward. I predicted him to beat Pereira in the rematch and then defend once more at the end of the year, maybe against Logan Paul, something like that. But now I really don't know whether or not he beats Pereira in the rematch, because like Pereira he's actually like a demon that haunts Adesanya. It's kind of freaky, and it kind of like gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit thinking about Pereira, because like if you fuck that guy over, like he will haunt you for the rest of your life and beyond. So I have Israel Adesanya, but I'm really beginning to doubt it. And there's always the wild card of Chimaev as well. And on behalf of all Robert Whittaker fans, we don't want the Khamzat fight. We might act confident and be like, well, you know, Whittaker, he has exceptional takedown defense, and he was going to wrestle at the Commonwealth Games for Australia. We don't want that fight. We don't want it. We don't want it. And if Whittaker wants to take it, we will march outside his house and ask him not to take it. It's not a good fight for him. I don't care what anyone says.
All right, Steve, middleweight pick.
Okay. So, obviously, I've just done his pick, so with full knowledge of what was going on with Pereira and Izzy. With that being said, I'm picking Pereira to beat Izzy. I'm not finished. Pereira just has that touch, that like death touch over Izzy, like you said. I didn't consider, if I'm honest, Chimaev, because like we were saying, it's tough to predict what he's going to do at any given moment. So I haven't thrown him in at middleweight. I think I'm still assuming that he's going to fight Colby at some point. And I was looking at middleweight, and there is obviously one, and Jake mentioned it, there is one middleweight that has, or seemingly on paper, has a really good chance against Pereira stylistically, and that is that man, Robert Whittaker. I think Robert Whittaker, the way he mixes up his wrestling and his boxing will cause real problems for Alex Pereira. If Rob can get that fight to the ground and like deal out some ground and pound or something, or maybe even see a submission, I think Robert Whittaker will beat Alex Pereira and will end the year as champion.
Please God, let it happen. For fuck's sake, like he's good enough to be champion. Just don't let him fight Hamzat. What's the sense in that? Fucking grab Hamzat and just say, listen, lay off the fucking cake with Darren Till, right, and get your ass down to 170. Go fight Bilal Muhammad. No one likes him. Well, Kyle doesn't like him anyway. And then leave the fucking path clear for Whittaker to be middleweight champion. How fucking difficult is that?
Jamie, who'd you pick?
I'm picking Adesanya to finish the year as champion. Obviously, like Steve, I've got the benefit of only making my picks right now. So that fight has been booked for April the 8th. I don't see Hamzat fighting at middleweight this year. I just don't. I think UFC have come out and said they're going to give him one more chance to fight at welterweight, see how he does. And I think he would probably prefer to fight at welterweight as much as the cut is like a killer to him. I've just realised that in my welterweight pick, I was talking about how Hamzat might have to fight Burns, but that's already happened, so I don't see that happening again. But yeah, I don't see a world in which Hamzat fights at middleweight this year, or at least fights twice at middleweight this year, because that's what would have to happen. He'd have to fight a contender and then fight Adesanya. I see Adesanya beating Pereira in the rematch, and then, like Cole said, possibly fighting again. I think it was you, Cole, sorry. Possibly fighting again once more towards the end of the year. Who he fights, I don't know. There's not really anyone, is there? Like, if Delide beats Vettori, and that, can you really say that Delide is going to fight Adesanya for the title? I don't know.
If Izzy wins, we have to get a live reaction cam from Jake realizing that Whittaker is no longer fighting for the title.
Yeah, this is the issue. Like, if Adesanya wins, is he going to try and move up again and like move up to light heavyweight and do a proper like move up?
I reckon they'll do a trilogy. They'll do a third fight with him and Pereira, because even though like in MMA, you know, it'd be 1-1 in the eyes of the fans, it's 3-1. So
I suppose it depends how that fight goes.
I'm sure Adesanya. Yeah.
If Adesanya goes,
if it's 5 rounds and not in a domination.
Yeah, or if it's a 5-round domination, or if Adesanya goes in and knocks him out like in rounds 1 to 3, then I think it's hard to even like to say that they should fight again.
I agree. UFC light heavyweight division. I'm going to go to Steve first on this one. It's been a weird division. When I wrote this initial prediction, I thought that either Ankalaev or Jan Blachowicz would be champion. So it's been a strange one to predict. So I have no idea where you guys are going to go with this. Steve, who did you go with in the end?
The fact is very irrelevant to what we're doing now, but I did just get a Bellator PR email. I can confirm it's a 3-fight main card.
Okay.
I'll be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Light heavyweight. See, something that's interesting to me now, which I didn't even actually think of at first, is that if Izzy loses to Alex, he might move up. There's a very real possibility Israel just moves up if he loses to Alex again.
I think he could if he beats him.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no one else really like for him to fight.
Yeah. Well, the top of the division is open now as well, obviously. I don't think I'm like thinking of changing out. Do I go for like this kind of safe pick, or do I go for like an out there pick?
Be ballsy.
Okay, Israel Adesanya. Mhm. He's an active fighter. The only thing is, if he gets knocked out by Alex, he might not be able to come back as soon as he would like.
Mm.
But you know, if Jamal's still the champion, Izzy beats him. I think Izzy like very clearly beats Jiri technically as well, and I'm a big Jiri fan. The only tricky one there is Ankalaev, who was my original pick. But now I'm gonna go Izzy. I think Izzy moves up. He maybe has one fight, although I don't think that's really necessary. I think he could go straight into a title shot again. And I think he will beat.
Loses.
He's Israel Adesanya. He's the highest paid fighter in the UFC, as we just established.
On the other hand, he's Israel Adesanya.
Yeah.
Enough said.
He could definitely go straight into a title fight, I feel like. And if Jamal Hill's still the champion, like I said, Izzy wins that like handily, I feel. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Ankalaev is the only one that would really put doubt in my mind, but I'm gonna go with Izzy.
I think I'm going to say it's because I think we all might have the same feeling on this one. If I thought that Ankalaev would fight for a title again this year, I would be predicting him to be the champion. But I think that after the way that fight went and the way that he reacted, I don't think the UFC are in any hurry. So I think that we would all probably be saying Ankalaev if say that there had been a rematch granted or something like that for Jan and Ankalaev, or they had said to Ankalaev, okay, we're sorry about the decision, you'll get the next title shot against Jamal Hill. I think we would all be predicting Ankalaev to win the year as champion, but because of that, I can't do it. I'm going full storyline here. That's something I want to see. My next two picks are all about storyline. So I'm going with Yuri to come back and win the belt, reclaim what he never lost. After seeing Jamal Hill's performance against Glover Teixeira, not so confident. But I love Yuri Prohaska. And at first I was like, is he going to be back in time? What kind of shape is he going to be in? I have no doubt that Yuri Prohaska is going to be back this year because he is that right kind of insane where you know that he will put his body through hell in order to come back in time. And I just don't think Jamal Hill is going to fight before then. So that is why I have gone with Yuri Prohaska. Although I was a little bit worried for a minute there that Alex Pereira was going to get the fight. But then obviously they announced Izzy and Alex too. So that was easy to do. Jamie, who'd you go with?
So I'm under the same kind of thought process as Steve, whereas I think we might see Adesanya moving up at some point this year, whether he wins or loses. I think there's a good possibility he moves up. But I also think there's a possibility that if he does whatever the result is against Pereira, he's going to have a bit of time off, whether that be that we don't see him for the rest of the year after April. I think that could be a possibility. And then you've just mentioned there, Carl, about Ankalaev. I think he could still sneak into a title fight by the end of this year. I think obviously with the way that fight went, Blachowicz was kind of just saying like, "I'll give him the belt." Like even though it was a draw, like it was a close fight. I think he's probably going to take a bit of a step back and just let it play out. Whether one of them fights Rakic, it probably won't be Blachowicz because obviously that was the fight that Rakic got injured in. Whether Ankalaev fights Rakic as Rakic's comeback fight and then fights for the title, I think that could be a possibility. So I'm going to say Ankalaev. Just whether it all lines up, which is the massive, it probably won't, but I'm going to be bold and say Ankalaev.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that if I was trying to be sensible about it, that is what I would pick as well. Jake, who'd you go with?
I went with Ankalaev because I actually thought it was the safe choice. Maybe I got that one wrong. If you want to read the full breakdown of who I am predicting to fight Jamal Hill next, make sure to check out Jake's takes at vmtv.co.uk. But in summary, I predicted Hill to beat Teixeira. I am predicting Ankalaev to beat Hill. And then I think
That's the
he
next fight.
might. Yeah. I think the UFC knows who won that fight. And it was Magomed Ankalaev. And he went back a week or so later after the fight and he said, look, I overreacted. I still want to be champion. So I think they'll give him that shot. One person who's being slightly overlooked in that conversation, I think, is Blachowicz. And like, if they don't want Ankalaev in there and Prohashka's not ready, they could go to him, but he's also pushing 40 and he's won 1-1 in his last 3. So I wouldn't put too much money on it. But yeah, I have written down that I think Ankalaev defends against Blachowicz at the end of the year, but I think that's wishful thinking that we'll get 3 light heavyweight title fights this year. I don't think Prohashka comes back. I have the Ankalaev ends the year as champion and sets up a big 2024 fight with Prohashka.
See, I think Yuri comes back and fights Hill next and loses to Hill, and then Hill fights Ankalaev by the end of the year.
I just don't think Yuri's going to be ready. Maybe I've fallen into the whole UFC marketing machine about talking about how bad his shoulder was, but I think if he does come back in like the middle of this year, like he said, I don't think he's going to be 100%. Maybe that's just where I'm at the minute.
But I think he'd fight without being 100% because he's just insane.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Also, it's not very fair to send him in. He looks very thin at the minute, and that's because USADA won't stop visiting him, taking his blood and piss.
I know something they do. They know something. They have to. There's no way they're testing him that often.
So many times?
I mean, you only have to take one look at him to know. I don't know if this guy knows if he's telling the truth. So who knows? We haven't got too long left, so we got to fit in our heavyweight prediction. I'm going to go first on this one because it kind of is quite similar to my last one in that if I was thinking with my head, I would go with a different prediction, but I wasn't when I wrote this, because when I wrote this, I started it with the words, let's get crazy for a minute, because I didn't think John Jones would back this year, but I thought it's got to be now or never. So I picked John Jones to end the year as heavyweight champion, and then I had to release my video earlier than I wanted to because they announced John Jones was coming back. I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't think he beats Cyril Gane, so this prediction is basically pointless. But I wanted John Jones to come back. I wrote it down on a bit of paper, and it came true. So I'm staying with John Jones. There you go. Jake, who did you go for at heavyweight?
I went for the main man, Cyril Gane. But I feel like I'm on track to get it right, but in the wrong way. I predicted that Francis would actually fight Jones. I felt like that was going to happen. I said that Ngannou would beat Jones, then leave the UFC. Now, I don't know why I thought that, because if he did fight, his contract would get extended, starting the shit all over again. As I say, I was on crack at the time. And then I predicted that Gane would win the vacant title against Pavlovich at the end of the year. Did I even write down Pavlovich? No, I didn't. I just said Gane wins the vacant title. In this scenario, I suppose it was Pavlovich.
We should point, obviously, we said this at the start, but me and Jake wrote our predictions weeks ago. So we both factored Francis Ngannou into the plans. Like, I had Jones to beat Ngannou at some point in the year. Had he been announced to fight in Cyril Gane, not so confident. But anyway, Steve, who'd you pick at heavyweight?
You mentioned there, obviously, you think you went crazy with yours, and then it ended up not being that crazy at all. I kind of went crazy on mine. Cyril Gane's going to beat John Jones. Cyril Gane isn't the best grappler. There is a heavyweight, currently ranked number 6, very good submission game. The man
he's going to pick Tom Aspinall.
The man we last saw inside Chris Ramsey's bedroom. He's coming in with the big return from his obviously horrific knee injury. The main man, Tom Aspinall, will end the year as UFC heavyweight champion. Let's go.
I hope you're right, but you are a maniac.
I hope so too, but I can't see it happening this year. Yeah, I think Pavlovich probably fights for the belt before Tom does, and that's that's the issue. I think is just timing isn't on his side. But I admire the pick a lot. I'm
Definitely
sure.
one hell of a pick.
I'm sure when we
That's-
do this next year, Tom Aspinall.
That's fucking patriotism. That's patriotism at its absolute core. You've got a guy who completely blew his knee out. He's on the sidelines, you know, to become heavyweight champion. That's fucking English patriotism for you.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm fully, I fully
course
support
it
the
is.
pick. In fact, I was disappointed, Jake, to see you not pick Johnny Walker to be light heavyweight champion. If we're being honest, but that's okay. Jamie, who did you pick
cornrows.
as the final?
It's the
one?
fucking it's the braids. I'm gone off him now. I'm gone off him.
Not Irish anymore.
I picked Cyril Gann, and I think Cyril Gann beats John Jones, and I think he possibly fights Curtis Blade by the end of the year, who I think is a very underrated pick to finish the year as champion. I think Blade could finish the year as champion. Depending on who he fights next, it's probably going to be Pavlovich. So if he gets through Pavlovich, I would probably pick Blades. But I'm going to say Cyril Gann for safety purposes. So
Yeah, I completely forgot about that fight. Yeah, Curtis Blades.
yeah.
Probably most likely to fight for the title.
Is he booked to fight Pavlovich or
No, not yet.
no? That's just
No.
what has been rumored.
Mm.
I think he's an underrated pick. I really do.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say Curtis Blades. Fuck it, Curtis